Brian Claypool, criminal defense attorney, joins me now. Brian, right off the top, I just want to know the case against Comey, how you see it playing out, and what the strengths and the weaknesses of the case are.
Yeah, hey, Harris, always great to be back with you. Yeah, so this is a potentially challenging case. Why? Because prosecutors have to prove two things on the perjury or false statement charge. They've got to prove that first Comey authorized McCabe to do the leak to the Wall Street Journal. Why is that problematic? Because now there's a dispute as to whether McCabe said it the day after. In other words, the day after he leaked it, he allegedly went to Comey and said, "Hey, I leaked this." And then you've got Ted Cruz saying that McCabe got authorization from Comey. It's important because it creates kind of a factual quagmire, right? You've got Comey up against McCabe in trying to prove the false statement, and the Office of Inspector General already came down on McCabe saying that he's not really a credible witness. So that proves difficult. And then the second element on the perjury charge, Harris, that's challenging for prosecutors, they've got to prove that Comey said this knowingly and willfully. That he knowingly and willfully lied. The standard is not he was careless when he said it or he was reckless when he said it. That's a harder standard to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a federal court. You've got to, hopefully they have something like a text message or an email or possibly another independent witness that can corroborate that. So let's see what the evidence is on there. Do they have additional evidence to prove that? And then look, on the obstruction of justice charge, that's another hard crime to prove. This isn't like a murder case where you've got forensic evidence, you've got digital evidence or eyewitness testimony to corroborate a crime. On the obstruction of justice, you've got to show that typically Comey would do something like tamper with witnesses, right? That's a typical charge. Or that he concealed or destroyed evidence. Those are typical aspects of obstruction of justice. And again, you've got to show that he did something intentionally to derail the investigation.
Well, look, you talked about something, and I think it's really important to mention it. You said there will be some things that we haven't seen yet, unless there are these other things. So to bring evidence at a federal level, I'm perched as you are to see what they would have on that. But you better bet they do at this point, because this, you could make the argument that the Biden DOJ flung open the doors to processing this kind of a thing. So the feds know that they have to get this right? They prosecuted under Biden Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro of contempt of Congress, which was a misdemeanor. This is a felony against Comey. Your thoughts?
Right. I think that's an excellent point, Harris. And one would like to think that federal prosecutors have some additional evidence, right? They need something other than the tape that you played of Ted Cruz confronting Comey. And by the way, he was very snug in his response. I mean, most people that when they say they haven't done anything wrong, they're like, I'm not lying. I didn't do that, right? He's like, I'll defer to my prior testimony. But look, we don't know what the evidence is yet to support the indictment. And we need to see whether prosecutors have some additional evidence. And if they do, like a text message, like I said, an email that proves it, then Comey's in some hot water.
All right. And I appreciate you laying it out, what they will need, and we'll cover every part of this. Now I want to get to some new information about the suspect charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk earlier this month. The Utah County Commission has appointed a veteran public defender now to represent the suspect ahead of his first hearing, which is scheduled for Monday. The Utah Department of Public Safety with some chilling new details now about his movements the day Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
We have been able to confirm very recently that he did return to that campus and did make contact with an officer. The contents of that interaction, we're not prepared to reveal right now. That's part of the investigation and part of gathering more information.
In total, the suspected assassin faces 7 charges, including aggravated murder. The most serious murder charge in Utah carries the death penalty. The Justice Department also is considering filing charges as well. All right, so look at this case for us from 37,000 feet and tell me how the pieces are going to move on Monday.
Yeah, so on Monday, Harris, there's going to be either a preliminary hearing or they have what's called a waiver in Utah, where Tyler Robinson's federal public defender can get up and say, we waive a preliminary hearing. There's two ways to move forward with a murder charge in Utah. It's either a grand jury indictment, which we didn't have here, or if you're charged with the murder, then there's either got to be evidence that proves by sufficient probable cause that the murder was committed. That's the preliminary hearing. Or like I said, the defendant can choose to waive the preliminary hearing, and then you move forward to the actual arraignment then. The arraignment would take place after either a preliminary hearing or a waiver. Now, in terms of strategy, Robinson's lawyer really has nothing to lose by having a preliminary hearing. Why? Because typically, Harris, what defendants do in big cases like this is they want to see exactly what the evidence that the prosecution is going to put on. And if they go forward with it, then they get kind of an initial glimpse into what evidence they're facing in the case.
All right. Brian Claypool with us today. Thank you for your expertise. Appreciate your time. Good to see you.
You bet. Thanks, Harris.